Hey everyone, how y'all doing? My name is Mateo and I am from Exit Muse. Today we will be talking about reverbs. We're going to go through the efficient way of using reverb. Now, don't get me wrong, there's no right or wrong way of using reverb. This is music, music is a very subjective thing. However, there are more efficient ways of using reverb. So I'm going to go over how to efficiently use reverb. Now, what I'm going to be showing you today will apply to almost every major DAW out there. You can follow along with me, and I will show you how to efficiently route sounds to your reverbs and also, most importantly, save on CPU. So open up your choice of DAW and follow along. Now that I've got my DAW open, I'm going to show you how much CPU Reverb uses compared to other plugins. For this example, I've loaded up 24 tracks. 24 tracks is just a good number. It's a pretty common number in production. 24 track consoles, 24 I/O interfaces. It's a decent number. Let's look at these tracks and we're going to focus on this window right here. First, what I'm going to do to set up kind of an idea of what most of your plugins will use in terms of CPU. So things like compressors, EQs, which are like the bulk of the plugins that you'll typically use when mixing and working on songs. So I'm going to open up a basic compressor, one of the stock ones in Pro Tools. It's a copy of an 1176, and in Pro Tools, it's called the BF76. So I'm actually going to open up this compressor on all 24 tracks at once, and you're going to keep an eye on this window. As you see, it registers 2%. So across, it's dropped down now. So across my 12 cores, it only used about 2% in total of my processing. The reason why it's down to 0 is because Pro Tools has a function called dynamic plugin processing, which actually puts the plugins to sleep whenever they're inactive, just in order to have your system run a little more stable. So it's a nice feature. But when we loaded it up, it was using 2% of my CPU overall. What I'm going to do now is remove all these compressors, and I'm going to load up an instance of reverb on all 24 tracks. All right, so we see right here that we're going up to about 35 to 40% of CPU. That's a huge difference. 24 compressors compared to 24 reverbs. The 24 compressors only use 2% of my CPU. The 24 reverbs topped out at just over 40% of my CPU. That is a massive difference. And unfortunately, that's the reality with most reverbs. There are some reverbs that are more CPU efficient than others, but overall, reverbs are big CPU hogs. So you're probably asking why this is important. Well, I mean, you only have a limited amount of CPU on your computer. Now, I have a pretty powerful computer. I have 12 cores. I got plenty of CPU. I don't have to worry too much. But there are instances where I've been running sessions with 80 or 90 tracks, and I have a lot of plugins on all the tracks, and I sometimes max out my CPU. And there are other people that don't have a 12-core CPU, so they're running with less CPU. For those of you that use reverb directly on all your tracks, this is not a good use of your CPU. Thanks for tuning in for part 1 of this 3-part series on best practices for reverbs. In the next part, you're going to see a session that I'm working on and how I saved on CPU and still managed to use all the reverb that I needed to for my entire session. As always, feel free to like, share, comment on this post. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Exit Muse. On Facebook, you can like us at facebook.com/whatsyourmuse. Until next time, happy mixing, and I hope you guys check out the next video. Cheers.